Hello everybody, my name is Pixie People. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new. It took me a couple minutes to figure out a what if idea, considering I feel like most of them, if I tried doing them, they would just be boring and repetitive. So I think the healing one would be kind of repetitive to the all for one, but I think I'll mix it up slightly. Anyways, let's get right into the what if. So we start our story as Deku as a 5-year-old getting into a bit of a tumble with Bakugo. I mean wrestling. Bakugo trying to bully Deku while Deku just thinks it's a fun game. And Bakugo is actually on the back foot here, because I say so. Baku decides to use his quirk like a cheater and burns Deku's arm. And Deku, crying, holds it until we see a green light heal it, and then he heals himself. And then Bakugo just doesn't say anything about it, and Deku just lets it slide because he's fine, and he's a kid, so. And so then Deku shows his mom that he can heal people and himself by when his mom accidentally cuts himself. When Iko accidentally cuts herself while cooking dinner, and Deku heals it, and Iko jumps with joy that they already know he has a quirk. And then they set its name as Recovery, just because that sounds cool. And so people don't really diss Deku because Deku has a quirk, and his quirk is actually pretty strong. True, it's only for supporting, but it's still strong if you actually think about it for like a split second, because Deku can heal himself. So if you stab him, he can just kick you off himself and heal himself and stab you. So kind of overpowered in people's eyes though. So in this timeline, Deku obviously works towards becoming a hero and works on his body, so at least it's harder for people to hurt him. And so Deku does that for his whole life until up to the middle school, where everyone says to become heroes. The teacher says that, and no one disagrees with Deku wanting to go to UA. They actually clap when Deku says he's going to go to UA, because they know, yo, new hero, let's go. Honestly, Baku in this timeline is quiet. He doesn't like the fact that Deku gets all the attention, because his quirk is... Actually, no. In this timeline, Baku is just kind of an acquaintance with Deku. They were friends back in the day, but like acquaintances now, really. Baku and Deku really don't have any friends in this timeline, because neither of them are really popular. They're really just cool quirks, and you don't really want to approach them, because in this timeline, Baku is quiet, and so is Deku. Deku more of a joyful looking face, while Baku more of a scowl looking face. Anyways, Deku just eventually goes down to the street, like in every timeline, but of course, in this timeline, the slime villain busts out of the thing, but Deku just dodges it instead of getting caught immediately. And Deku dodges the slime villain for a while, because, you know, what else is he supposed to do? His healing's not really offense, it's more defense. But eventually All Might shows up and punches the slime villain, dropping it and putting it into a bottle. And tells Deku thank you for distracting the villain, and he's sorry that he wasn't here quicker. But Deku, out of breath, says it's alright, waving his hand. with All Might saying, "It was pretty heroic of you to stand up to that villain like that and not just run away." And Deku says that, well, there wasn't really no other choice, but thanks. And so All Might and Deku chat for a sec, until All Might says he's gotta get, because you can see him steaming slightly, knowing he's gonna get out of the big form. So Deku just says, could he sign his notebook? And he does really quickly, and All Might runs. Doesn't jump this time, he just runs. So no slime villain incident. Because he knows if he jumped, he would probably run out of steam and become little again. So anyways, Deku just goes back home and trains for the 10 months. All Might wasn't really impressed by Deku or like heroics, he was just like, thanks kid. So, no all for one in this timeline. One for all in this timeline, sorry. Okay. So Deku trains on his healing, on how hard he can heal himself. So, eventually after the 10-month training arc, Deku gets to the UA doors, wearing, I guess, I would say, a black one piece with baggy pants, with, basically think Gogeta's fit, but with a puffy coat and a shirt. That's basically Deku's fit right now. And so Deku, walks in and meets Ochako, because she was also walking in. And so they talk for a second, because they just bumped into each other. Let's say they, actually bumped into each other. Not, metaphorically, physically bumped into each other. So they talked for a second on how they would pass, and then Deku says, good luck, and she says the same. And then they go to separate areas to test. And Deku aces it, no problem. So after the test concludes, they go to the robot test. So they're all standing around. Ochako walks over to Deku this time. Ida doesn't mind, because he wasn't looking that direction. So Ochako and Deku talk, and then Deku thinks, don't you think it's weird that they'd make us wait around, even though heroes never wait around to help? Ochako thinks that's pretty strange, and she decides to be a little devious and ask, do you want to see if this is a test? And Deku shrugs and says, why not, with a devious grin on. So they both fly over the gate and land with Ochako's quirk, and they decide they're gonna work together. Quick friendship, they basically clicked as friends, basically. And so him and Ochako team up and fuck up all the robots, and yeah, of course President Might says that was the test, and then everyone goes running. Anyways, so Deku and Ochako fuck up all the robots, and eventually the 1.0 pointer shows up, but Deku and Ochako just run away from it. Ochako does not get trapped under the rubble this time. No one really does. No one gets trapped. The 0 pointer just walks around the whole time, walking around, while everyone collects more points. So, no one got hero points, I guess. They all got destructive points. So, him and Ochako actually stay talking and actually walk with each other while they talk on how they think they definitely made it in, considering how many robots they destroyed. And Ochako says she really hopes that she gets in, and hopes he got in too, because he seems pretty cool and pretty heroic too. So Deku and Ochako eventually part ways, and then they wait a week, and then boom, the test I guess, I don't know, I guess the internship, whatever it's called, I don't care. So the letter comes in, and Inko shows Deku, and Deku is really happy and slightly tears, one tear. He's had in a minute. So him and Ochako catch up again after the week, and they get to learn more about each other. Anyways, they eventually, Aizawa shows up and says, "Take seats, you're being too loud," and he wasted 5 minutes of my time. And Deku says sorry. Aizawa didn't hear it, but Deku says it. So they all sit down and wait for the and they wait for instructions, and instructions are given on what they're gonna do, and Aizawa says they're gonna go test their quirks, and Deku stresses out for a second because his quirk isn't really physical. So he gets a bit worried. So they all get to the locker rooms and get their jumpsuits on, and then Aizawa says what they're gonna do first. Remember not to say after a lot, because like that's really annoying. Sorry. So Deku and Ochako basically are just chatting while this is happening. Let's just say Deku basically gets like around the good mark, and then Aizawa reveals it was a test just to see how the quirks were, not to get kicked. Forgot to mention that, he said that, but he said that. So after Deku and Ochako talk more, Ida eventually... No. I'll cut that. So Deku and... I guess just chills for a sec when they get back to the class. Then they learn a couple of new stuff. And so Deku leaves school, and then they get the whole All Might showing up, and Deku gets shocked because, he didn't know. So let's just say Deku and Ochako are a team still. And yeah, they still fight Bakugo and Ida. Yeah, by the way, Ida knows Ochako, so Deku doesn't know Ida that much, but Ochako does. So after... I said it again. So when All Might says go, they all go in. And when Bakugo comes around the corner, not purposely trying to fight, actually purposely trying to fight, but it's not for the reason in like the original. He just wants to show off. And so Deku says to Ochako to just leave while he fights Bakugo. And Bakugo says that's fine with him, and Ochako walks past, with everyone saying, "What an idiot," and slapping their heads in the watching room. And so Deku gets into a stance with Bakugo getting into his explosive stance. So they start battling, with Bakugo throwing the first explosion, with Deku tanking the explosion and healing himself. Oh, by the way, he doesn't need to hold out his hands or do anything like that. He can just heal his whole body without even doing anything. It's just like an instinct he can do. So basically what happens is Bakugo and Deku just battle until Bakugo gets exhausted and Deku is fully nothing. He's perfectly fine. But Deku, sensing that Ochako is still not done and wanting to fight a bit more, heals Bakugo to full. And Bakugo says he'll regret that. But Deku says, "No, I won't." And Bakugo gets annoyed and immediately pops his grenade thing. And Deku wasn't expecting that and tries to dodge because he knows he is not going to heal from that. He dodges it kind of, hitting his arm, and it scorches his arm kind of, but it's fine, he can heal it. He breaks through a couple walls and rubble goes onto him. Bakugo laughing, telling Deku he shouldn't have done that. But Deku crawls out of the rubble, throwing a pebble at Bakugo before he leaves, with Bakugo saying as resilient as ever, Izuku, and I guess Deku says, "You know it, dog." Yes, that was some slang. What you gonna do about it? I'm kidding. We'll just cut that. You know it, Bakugo. Yes, they're on a first name basis because they're not really that close. So Bakugo and Deku clash again, with Ida and Ochako still fighting up there. With Ida actually winning in this timeline, just because I say so. Because of none of that uppercut stuff. And it's basically just a long fight between Deku and Bakugo. Until, Deku and Bakugo eventually clash with each other. Bakugo getting knocked out and Deku clinging on and healing himself to full. So he just walks up to Ida, and just when Ida goes to strike at him, he just dodges him and just throws him against a wall, and then touches the bomb with 2 seconds on the clock. With Ida sighing and getting up, saying "well played." And Deku says that was fun. Forgot to mention his hero outfit is really just let's say a white jumpsuit with green accents, with the puffy jacket, but it's black instead of it's just black. It's basically what Deku was wearing, but updated slightly to be more heroic looking. It also has a mask thing, like in the original timeline. So, after Deku wins, he just goes back home, and that's really it. So when So eventually they get on the bus and everyone talks about who's the strongest, with Bakugo actually chiming in saying Deku's is actually pretty strong compared to his. Shocker, Bakugo complimenting someone. But, this is in character for this Bakugo. There's no really ego boost. He doesn't have a lot of ego this timeline. Because he's basically been humbled by Deku's quirk. That fight with Deku humbled him. Kind of. So everyone starts to agree, but everyone says that Todoroki, they look over to Todoroki, who's sitting there with his horrendous hero outfit. And they say his quirk is probably ice and fire, considering if you look at him, he kind of looks like he has that aesthetic. With Todoroki sighing when they mentioned he had a fire quirk. That's for later though. So eventually they get there and get out, and like they say, Baku and Deku are next to each other. Because they're starting to get back into that whole friendship again. But slowly. With Ochako also being there, gushing about how she loves this hero and she's her favorite. With Deku saying his favorite hero is, I think, Snipe in this timeline. Just because how laid back Snipe is. And he likes his voice. Bakugo's favorite is still All Might, so that's no difference. So after they're done talking about their favorite heroes, the villains open the portal. Korikiri opens a portal, and they all walk out with Aizawa jumping down to fight them. With him saying to the black hole lady to keep his class safe. So Deku destroys, I guess, stays safe right up there. Until Korigiri shows up and Bakugo, being Bakugo, jumps ahead, and with Kirishima also being there. Because they're still pals. So they both go to fight Korigiri, but, goes exactly how it went in the original timeline. Where everyone got teleported to different regions. With Deku again, Tsuyu and Mineta. And so they're about to fall into the water, and they land in the water, with Tsuyu grabbing Deku and Mineta. And when they get on the boat, Deku realizes this is not a safe area, and says he's going to drive the boat onto land. And they say, it doesn't even have keys, and Deku says to find the keys. So he gets into the boat's cabin and sees there's actual keys right in the ignition. So he pulls them and starts driving the boat, with the villains not being able to stop it because Deku's going full throttle. We'll say it took Deku long enough to get over to the cabin, as long as it did Deku to shoot the whirlpool. And so they're full throttling, and the villains can't stop them, and Deku drives the entire boat onto land, with the Nomu actually about to do the thing he did in the original timeline to Aizawa, but Deku stops it with the whole ass boat, and Nomu catches the boat, actually buckling because it's a big boat. And Deku does a little bit of a stealth attack and jumps behind the boat back into the water with no one noticing. Except, of course, Mineta and Tsuyu. And Tsuyu and Mineta figure out Deku's plan and actually distract the villains to look at them, make them think they did it. So Deku swims over to a different area with the Shigaraki scratching his neck, enraged by what they did to the Nomu. And so the villain goes to talk, but Deku does a roundhouse kick to the guy's neck actually dropping him to his knees, with Deku then punching off the hand from Shigaraki's face, which makes him tweak out and go to look for it. With Kurogiri barely being able to react to it, Deku grabs a stone on the ground that the Nomu broke off when fighting Aizawa and smashed Kurogiri's metal shell with it, which made him stun, and Deku just started punching it. Yes, of course, he has some strength because of his quirk, but mostly because of his built-up muscle. So the Kurogiri gets disoriented with the Nobu still being stuck. So Deku, while disorienting the two villains, he runs over to Shigaraki, going to get him. But Shigaraki spins his hand around, touching Deku's arm, actually decaying it slightly, making one of his fingers fall off, his pinky. But Deku pulls his arm back, with his entire arm basically being half split, but he actually heals the full arm back, including the pinky. Yes, healing is kind of insane. And he basically backhands Shigaraki to the ground when he was going to touch him. But it actually drops Shigaraki almost immediately, almost knocking him out. But he's up and at him. Remember, this guy's a gamer, not a guy that's been working out. He doesn't work out and doesn't have a lot of durability on him. Eventually, Kurogiri gets disoriented and grabs Deku into a portal, sending him up to the highest point in the USJ. But Deku basically skydive shoots himself to the water, basically smashing his back to the ground, breaking his back, but he heals it and swims up to see All Might appear, and the Nomu finds his strength and pushes the boat back into the water, sinking the boat into the water. And Shigaraki puts on his mask and tells the Nomu to kill All Might, considering that was his job. So Nomu and All Might fight happens the exact same, with, again, Todoroki saving him and Baku dropping Kurogiri. But when the clash starts happening, Baku gets separated from Kurogiri. And when Baku, when all that happens, Deku runs over to All Might and starts to heal him, because after that punch, it looked like it took a lot out of him, which actually heals back his timer. So when he feels it, he's like, good in his mind, and thanks Midoriya for healing him. Saying his quirk really comes in handy, doesn't it? And Deku says, yeah, it does. So, continuing our story, Deku is looked at in the hospital. Ambulance. He's on the ambulance right now. He's healing himself when All Might shows up to say sorry that he wasn't there on time. But Deku says it's fine, considering he could have just healed anyone that got any serious injuries. By the way, in this timeline, Deku healed Aizawa after he got pummeled. So, Deku tells him. Deku and All Might have a conversation on how his quirk is pretty, it's very much a support person, but he acts like he's the DPS, really. Of course, they don't use DPS, they use attacker, because they don't use video game logic. But anyways, DPS, basically. So Deku is thanking All Might for the whole telling him he's unique in that way. After the conversation, Deku goes home with his mom, and they just have a conversation on how that was pretty dangerous. But Inko's glad he came out of that safe. Deku decides to link up with Ochako. So basically, so after the week, they go back to school a week before the USJ to catch up on the assignments they were supposed to be doing. So they do that, and after the week concludes, the USJ happens. So Deku gets into his USJ outfit and links up with Ochako again, so they can they're gonna help each other get to the finals. And so Ida eventually walks up to them, wondering why, they're so buddy-buddy when this is a competition. And then Ochako and Deku explain their plan. And so Ida decides, if this is a 3 group, this could be even better. And they look at Ida in shock, like, you want to group up? And he says, yeah. Ochako already knew Ida, because they were all buddy-buddy before the exam started. The trio is assembled, and they're going to help each other get to the finals. And so Deku then talks to Ida for a second, like whispers in his ear about something. And so Ida says, that could work. And so Ochako wants to help with the plan, is wondering what it is. And they then explain it to her. And then the plan is set. It's going to be explained pretty quickly. So when the bell rings, they're all back there setting something up. And then we see Ida give Deku a piggyback ride. He's a big lad, he can handle that. And Ochako puts the floating thing on them, and she holds onto his legs, lifting them up, and then Deku grabs her arms, and they basically become a jet. Then they just shoot straight past everyone, past Ida and Bakugo, because Ida's going all out for this. Not going the blue boost, but he's going all out. And then they just clear it super fast. And the reason Ida was able to do all this is because Deku was healing him the whole time, so his stamina would never run out. Yeah, that's an ability Deku has, I forgot to mention that. Deku can regenerate your stamina until he gets tired, but since it was going so fast, he didn't really need to heal you. By the way, I recorded before this, and I came up with that idea. The whole Deku being able to heal people, and then he gets tired eventually. Anyways, after, it was basically a 3-way tie between, actually no, Ochako got first because she was, the front basically. So Ochako's first didn't really matter, considering Ida and Deku are on a team. So when they announced the cavalry battles, they immediately link up. But the problem is a 4th member. Luckily for them, a pink-haired girl shows up. She's from the support channel. I forgot her name, but it's that pink lady that likes machines and calls her machines baby. Yeah, so she links up with them. And yeah, that's right. So they work together, and they create their thing. Deku is on top, having the headband, because he's able to reach out to people easier to heal them. So basically, what happens is they stand there waiting for people to come at them, and when they come at them, Deku heals Ida fast, so he can just basically sidestep them with Deku floating everyone, and then the pink-haired lady pins everyone so they don't, go flying. After that, basically what happens is Deku, Ida, Ochako, and pink-haired lady just dip the whole lobby, and no one catches them. They try, but they just can't get to them. So, yeah, all four of them are confirmed for the, fighting rings. So, the bracket's set up. Yeah, Shinso still made it in, so it's Deku versus Shinso. But in the original timeline, just like in the original timeline, Tailed Guy shows up and tells Deku how he didn't feel like he was in his own body, and that's why he disqualified himself. So Deku keeps that in mind when he goes into the ring. So Deku gets into his stance, and Shinso tries to, insult Deku. Doesn't work. Yeah, basically calls Deku lucky, cheap, unfair, weak, and not good. Then he tries to insult his classmates. He insults Ochako, insults Ida, the pink-haired lady. Of course, it's Deku, and it irritates him, but he decides, I'm just gonna hit you. So he pops his knuckles, like I just did, and then he runs over and just punches Shinso really hard. And then he basically just wombo combos Shinso, not purposely keeping him from falling. Like at one point he punches him super close to the edge, but he actually does the move he did in the original, slamming him to the ground, and actually pins him and just starts wailing on him. And then he heals him, and then he throws him out of the ring. Deku leaves the ring, W in hand. And he just sits in the stand watching the fights. He sees Todoroki versus Sero and is sad for Sero because, oh my god, ain't gotta do him like that, Todoroki. So Deku decides to talk to Todoroki, seeing how he's doing, because that was a bit unnecessary. And Todoroki wants to talk to Deku too. Mostly did tell him he's gonna win with just Ice Quirk, which Deku says that would probably work on him because his Ice Quirk's pretty overpowered. But he would like to see his other half of the quirk that he saw in the USJ. But Shoto says he's not going to use his quirk, which makes Deku confused until he remembers his father is Endeavor, which he remembers that Endeavor is not the best person, really. And he thinks, yeah, that probably didn't translate too well to being a father. But he doesn't think that he abused them, he just thinks he was a neglected father. But then eventually he meets up with Endeavor, in the hallway, and tells Endeavor that it seems as though him being a bad father made Todoroki quirk neglective. So his fire quirk's weaker than his ice quirk. But Endeavor ensures that Todoroki is clearly stronger than him. But Deku doesn't say he's stronger than him. He just says that he, Endeavor, is a bad father. Then he just walks away, with Endeavor fuming and gripping his fist in anger, knowing he can't hit a kid. Anyways, Deku walks out into the ring and is readying up to fight Todoroki. Gets into a stance, and so does Todoroki. And Todoroki plans to do the same thing he did to Sero, but crazy Nelson. And Todoroki's only side he can use is his fire side. So Deku basically says, without words, saying, "You better use your fire quirk or you lose." And so Todoroki tries to use his ice quirk, but it really just shoots him and Deku towards the edge, which Deku basically is about to pull him out of the Nelson and throw him out of the ring. But Todoroki is so not gonna. Remember, Deku has not given any speeches, anything. So Todoroki sadly gets tossed out of the ring with no fire quirk thing. And then Todoroki lands outside the ring and actually gets really furious, like really mad. With Deku still in the ring, he sees Todoroki's anger and yells to Midnight, "I'd like a rematch," which Midnight gets shocked at. A rematch? Looks like Todoroki, with Todoroki getting up and realizing Deku's serious, looks like Todoroki wants another round. So why not give it to him? And he pulls out a stance and then he puts his hands up and says, "Who wants that?" And then everyone cheers, saying that's awesome and stuff. So Deku gets back into his stance and tells Todoroki, "Let's try that again." And so Todoroki decides, okay. And then he sends out his flames immediately, with Deku dodging it, catching some of the flames. And then Deku says that this is what the people wanted, this is what you should be doing for your hero career. And then basically Deku's showboating. Which also makes Todoroki use his fire quirk. So, obviously, Deku gets obliterated here. He gets ice quirk. He tries to do the pin Nelson again, but fire. And he tries to do it the opposite way. Ice. So Deku just decides he forfeits. Then Todoroki bows to Deku, saying, "Thank you." And Deku says, "It was no problem." And so, a new friendship is birthed. Deku and Todoroki are now homies. So after that fight, basically Todoroki versus Bakugo happens, but this time, Todoroki wins. Because this time he's less convicted on using his fire quirk. So Bakugo loses. He's mad, like really mad, but he chills himself for the ceremony. And so the top three is Tokoyami, Shoto, and Bakugo. Tokoyami, Bakugo, Shoto. But Bakugo and Todoroki are kind of like, it's fun. Tokoyami doesn't care. Yeah. So, when that's really where that happens. Okay. So then we continue our story. Yeah, we're still going. 18 minutes in, still going. But then Deku learned from Ochako that Ida left a while back when he got a call. That's why he got forfeited. And so Deku wants to know why. And eventually he learns that the pro hero Ingenium got effed up by a hero killer named Stain. And Deku gets enraged at this because after that, next day at school, after the USJ, he gets his hero internships, and let's say he gets I'm thinking, sorry. Who was there? So he can help. Basically what I'm trying to say is I want Deku to be with Ida. But I don't think Endeavor likes him, and I don't think Gran Torino's gonna like him either. Okay, you know what? New hero alert. Let's say it is a mutant hero quirk that is a werewolf quirk, and he was impressed by Deku's boastfulness and his willing to give people the confidence to fight with their full power. So this hero is named, I guess, Pact. That's their name, and they have hero agency in whatever it's called. And yeah. It before any blood can come out, because guess what he did before he came to this area? He did his research. He knows Stain's quirk. People figured out on the news that his quirk from, body things, that they had multiple lacerations and there was blood dripped everywhere and saliva near it. So they were thinking, and then they started speculating. I realized Stain's quirk was a blood-related quirk. They don't know it stuns people, but Deku doesn't need to know that. So Deku basically negates Stain's quirk. So basically it's just a fist fight. And I'll say Stain is still winning because he's a better fighter than Deku. But Deku's more persistent. Eventually Ida gets up and they jump Stain. She would say a lot harder than it is in the original because there's no shoot style. But they're whittling Stain down, considering Deku keeps healing them. And eventually Todoroki shows up, which basically screws Stain over. So they eventually just take out Stain, knocking him out, or so they think. And so they cuff him and try to bring him over to the villains. And before that happens, Deku gets snatched by the bird, Nomu. but Stain leaps up and stabs it, sliding it with it. He didn't say it out loud, but he thinks Deku is a true hero because he went to save his friend because, he's his homie. And he appreciates that kind of evil because that's a hero. That's a hero, basically. And so, after Stain does that, he does his whole, "Come at me, you fake heroes," and then says, "Who's gonna stop me?" with his blood verse, and then that basically makes everyone get cocky. After that, Stain collapses from pain. We continue our story after Deku has just fought Stain with Todoroki and Ida. They all thought he was out, but he got up after Deku got kidnapped by the bird Nomu, and he killed it. And after that, he knocked himself out. After that, Deku, Todoroki, and Ida went to the hospital because of their injuries. So they all in the hospital. Deku recovers basically instantly because of the whole healing quirk that can heal himself. But when he goes to ask if they want to be healed, Ida and Todoroki, they say no. So Deku just respects their wishes and just leaves. And goes back to the agency where the wolf guy said that it's best for Deku to just go home for the rest of the thing. So Deku decides, yeah, okay, and then he leaves to just chill at home. And then after those are all concluded, the hero agency, they go back to school, and they learn about that they need to pick their hero names, and then Aizawa says these aren't permanent, just fun exercise. And then we pause it. So eventually Deku comes up with a hero name, and he goes up to the front of the class. I said that really quietly at first. And he shows his hero name called Lifeline. And so Midnight approves, and Deku sits back down. And Deku watches everyone's hero names, saying in his head that most of these are good. Bakugo's was insanely stupid. And that's it. And Deku sees Aizawa walk in and explain to the class that they're going to have a special exam, and they're going to have to just wing it when the exam starts. So after Aizawa explains that, Deku then theorizes with Ochako, Ida, and basically his whole friend group, basically. Which is, you don't care. And they all just assume it's probably just going to be them fighting the teachers, because that's kind of the only progression to fighting robots, the teachers. So when they go to the exam place, Ochako, Deku, Ida know that, so does Todoroki, know that it's going to be fighting the teachers. So when they say they're going to fight the teachers, they're not surprised. But Deku is surprised when he hears that he has to work with Bakugo, which he knows Bakugo doesn't really like him. Yeah. Deku and Bakugo are not even on speaking terms, really. So Bakugo just, when the thing starts, they realize they're fighting All Might. Let me try that again. So All Might just crashes down and puts on his weighted things and say that he's their opponent. So Bakugo and Deku are shocked and hoping they can do something. Deku's plan is just to run out and get to the thing, because he knows he can't beat All Might, no matter how hard he tries. So, when they get in there, Deku immediately just sprints off, telling Bakugo to distract All Might. But Bakugo yells at Deku that he'll do more than just distract, he'll freaking beat him. Yeah, who am I kidding? He says fucking beat him. So, All Might appears, immediately clots Deku in the chest because he saw him running. And then he slams him into Bakugo and they tumble down. So Deku heals his stomach because he almost threw up. He heals Bakugo. Bakugo says to get off him because he doesn't want no healing. Deku doesn't care. So Deku says to Bakugo that he'll let him get a chance at defeating All Might. But if it doesn't work out, he better help him escape. Which Bakugo says that there'll be no need for that second plan because he completely got it. But he says, yeah, he'll do it. So both Deku and Bakugo just start to fight All Might, and All Might's basically demolishing them. But of course, they're not really taking any damage because Deku keeps healing them and not healing All Might, so can't really do anything. So basically, it's basically Deku and Bakugo doing some combos on All Might, and All Might just swinging back, hurting a whole lot more. But Deku just heals their wounds, and he keeps going. And eventually, Deku gets tired of healing, and they have nowhere near way tired All Might out. So Bakugo sighs, grabs Deku, and Deku didn't know what the plan was, really, and Bakugo spins with him and throws him, and before All Might really can see it, Deku gets sent so fast to where All Might can't react, and he basically tumbles almost in front of the gate. So All Might tries to go in front of it, but Bakugo shoots in front of him, point blanks him with a grenade thing, so it stuns him. So Deku just shambles over to the gate and gets out. So All Might congratulates Bakugo on the win, but Bakugo scoffs, snacking his hand off, saying it wasn't a win. It was a cowardly escape. But then Aizawa announces that they passed. After All Might brings Bakugo and Deku back to the watching area, they watch their friends do basically what they did in canon. No difference. And so we continue to the forest arc. So we can, we see Deku on the bus. We're just gonna really. So Deku's on the bus, just sitting there, waiting for them to get there. They get off the bus and meet the lady that's a little too weird towards minors. And yeah, Deku doesn't really react to it. He gets crumbled down with everyone else. But it's easier for them to get through the rock guys because they don't really run out of stamina. So they can really just hit them with all they got with no consequence. So when they get there a bit earlier than the bus, not a lot, but like a bit. And they just chill. And then Deku meets Koda. He gets his nuts punched, but it kind of doesn't affect him. It's like a snap pain. It hurts, but he heals it basically immediately. And Kota just walks away, with Deku wondering what's up with that kid. And then everyone starts training. Deku just trains on how to heal longer. So, yeah. So they all go to sleep, and the next day, or a couple days later, I mean, they're training, and after that, they make the curry, and Deku sees that Koda's not there, so he goes to bring a bowl of curry to where he last saw Koda heading, which is toward the mountain over there. So he goes over there and sees Koda just sitting there. So he sits down next to him with the curry, and Koda says to leave him alone. And it's really just Deku and Koda having the same conversation they did in the original, until Muscular shows up, punches Deku's arm, and twists it super around. But he heals himself basically instantly. And Deku knows there is no dang way he's gonna beat this guy. So he tells Koda to run while he holds him off. So Muscular says, like, that kid isn't going anywhere, but Deku hits Muscular in a pressure point, what actually blows up one of his muscle things, so he can't throw the punch as fast or as hard as he just wanted to. So Koda runs away, and Deku basically just pressure points Muscular the whole time. If you're wondering how he's doing this, he knows Muscular from hero ports, and so he knows where to hit him. So Muscular is getting irritated, and because he's not hurting Deku in the slightest. And luckily for Deku, that training he was doing in this forest arc actually paid off, because he was able to use it long enough to where Muscular got tired, and Deku hits him so hard in the nose, he drops with his nose broken, and he's out cold. True, this took a lot longer than the original, so this fight took so long that everything already transpired and the thing's already over. So Baku's already kidnapped, and Tokuyami isn't kidnapped. So Baku's the only one who got kidnapped, like in the original. True, Deku isn't as tight as he is with Baku than he was in the original, but Deku doesn't care. He's gonna help his classmate. After they all get taken in, everyone then talks with Deku on how they're gonna go save Bakugo, and so Deku goes with them. This was Kirishima's idea, so Kirishima gets punched by Ida instead of Deku. Then they just keep walking, get the disguises, they get to the hideout, all that. And basically everything that happens in the original happens right now. But when the building explodes, Deku's actually caught, like, really close to it. He's closer than he was in the original. So he slams into, like, rubble and is stuck under it. But they still get Bakugo and they escape without Deku. They saw Deku's hand moving in the rubble, so they just dipped. But Deku gets out of the rubble, seeing most of the League of Villains looking a different direction. And so Deku tries to sneak away, until Dabi turns around to go shoot a flame at him, because he sensed him, basically. But Deku just runs at him, which Dabi gets annoyed at, so he tries to burn Deku, which he hears Deku's sizzling skin, But then he gets socked in the jaw, actually breaking some of his staples, almost making his jaw fall off. And then looks over and sees Deku healing from basically every burn that happened. Oh yeah, Deku's been training, bro. So basically, all the League of Villains try to jump Deku, but Deku just straight up paces them with just his heels. Shigaraki tries to touch Deku, but Deku just breaks his hand. It's basically just a 1v League of Villains. It's hard for the League of Villains to even hurt Deku because he can just heal from all of them. Deku tries to stab him, and he just takes the stab and knocks her out. Eventually, All for One shows up, and the All Might vs. All for One fight happens. But before we see All Might in that skeleton form, Deku runs up to All Might and uses the last of his energy to heal All Might back to full. So All Might basically beats the shit out of All for One because he's at full strength, while All for One is slightly drained. So All for One is defeated, with Deku basically confirming that win. So Deku's then found in the hospital, out cold really. He's gonna be out for a minute. Actually, he's out for so long, he skips over the overhaul arc. So I don't have to explain why Deku doesn't go to the overhaul arc. Continuing our story, after Deku woke up after fighting All for One. And, of course, he wakes up before the Class 1A versus Class 1B fight. So, yeah. And he gets to meet up with Ochako after, and they talk on how Deku basically saved All Might from being killed. Yeah, but that's it. Then we get to the Class 1A versus Class 1B arc. So, yeah. Everything that happens in the original happens now. And until we get up into Bakugo's fight, where when he's about to use his explosion quirk, tendrils shoot out instead of explosions. And they're red and brown. Red and black. And they tangle around the lady with the detaching body parts, which Deku just is shocked by, and then Bakugo just works with it and throws her into jail. And he's able to keep it under control until the fight ends. And that was basically when they won, was when Bakugo hit that explosion. But yeah, in this timeline, Bakugo has one for all, and there you go. So, Bakugo, this fight ends, and now it's Deku's turn. And what happens in this fight is Shinso tries to catch Deku off guard with the voices, but Deku decided at the beginning he was going to just play safe and just not answer anyone. Even it was actually his team. He was just worried that Class 1B had like a person that could transfer people into different people, and then Shinso would have tricked everyone. That would be a dream partner for Shinso, wouldn't it? A person that could change Shinso's form to look like anyone. Anyways. Shit. So, just basically gets destroyed, let's be honest here. The fight happens, and then a fight happens. So tries to wrap Deku around the scarf, but Deku just uses his overwhelming strength and infinite stamina to drag Shinso over to him and punch him in the face. Then he wraps up Shinso really quickly and then picks him up and suplexes him into the ground, knocking him out, capturing him into the jail. And Monoma loses because the whole team jumps him and he can't really use everyone's quirks Deku keeps far, so Monoma can't take his quirk. So Monoma gets clapped up, and then they win the round. And Deku goes to find Bakugo, wondering what he was doing there with that quirk. That is most definitely not his. So, but Bakugo already left, so Deku has to ask later. And after that, we see the we then start and then we start the Endeavor Agency arc, and Deku gets invited to the arc by Shinso, and so Baku is there, so Deku immediately asked, "Yo." I'm kidding, he never says yo. But he asked Bakugo what that was, the whole black tendril thingy. But Baku says it's none of his business. But he says it's most definitely his business, considering that he saved his life. So Baku, owing it to Deku, he says that it's an awakening from his quirk. Which Deku completely says there's no way it is, considering nobody in the history of ever gets a quirk that's completely opposite to the original quirk. And so Baku says that's all he's gonna say. So Deku leaves it alone. Yeah, Deku doesn't know what One for All is, and he never will. I'm kidding, he will. Anyways, everything that happened in the Endeavor arc already happens correctly. Just Bakugo replacing Deku, and Deku saves All Might instead of Bakugo. After that, we see Deku with a bunch of civilians and keeping them safe. Then he sees Bakugo run off. And we see Deku click his feet, and we see some hover boots come out of him. Yeah, he asked from the pink lady if she could make him some hover boots so he could be faster, because he feels like the infinite stamina thing is kind of useless, because he'll just be sprinting. It's kind of slow. No matter how fast you can run, it's still way slower than a person with a speed quirk. So he'd like something to counter that. So she made hover boots for him, and now he has white boots that turn into hover boots, and he just uses them to hover around. So he uses those to follow Bakugo, and Bakugo tells Deku to leave him alone. We basically see him using a mixture of the Black Whip and the explosions. But Deku says that he's being too mysterious for a guy who has this much bravado. So Bakugo yells at Deku, but Deku doesn't care. He's basically curious on what Bakugo's doing. That is until Shigaraki shows up and Deku and Bakugo get shocked faces and then feel his killing intent on... Well, Deku feels the killing intent, but Bakugo feels the whole, I want your damn quirk. Bakugo and Deku, before anything happens, Shigaraki shoots his black things out, but Bakugo just blows him away. Then moves Deku away so Deku can just be on the sidelines while he fights him. But Deku just keeps helping by keeping Bakugo from blowing up his limbs. So, yeah. Bakugo and Deku basically hold off Shigaraki until the heroes show up. And while they think they're about to just jump Shigaraki, Shigaraki sends out the Nomus and they fight the heroes. And then we look over to see Aizawa, doing the thing he did in the original by canceling his quirks. And when Aizawa is about to take off his own foot, Deku runs over there, but Aizawa does take off his foot, but Deku heals it back onto his foot without the whole quirk racing thing, because it's a dead foot, and so the quirk racing thing just cancels out. So Aizawa was able to keep his foot, but he still loses an eye, because Deku had something to attach while the eye is just gone. So Aizawa is still out of the fight, but he keeps his foot. And Bakugo and Deku just jump Shigaraki, really. Mostly Bakugo just beating the shit out of Shigaraki while Deku heals him. But eventually Shigaraki catches Deku with his leg, basically disintegrating almost the whole thing, until Bakugo blows into him. Luckily for Deku, he heals his entire foot back. And then he goes unconscious because that took all of his energy. Him regenerating limbs is like his maxing out his entire strength. So he's out. So Bakugo fights Shigaraki until he can't no more, and Shigaraki basically loses control and goes unconscious, putting the black hand onto his face. And then they run away, and everyone, goes to the hospital. Deku wakes up a lot earlier than anyone else, and he goes to see if Bakugo's alright. And they say he's in a coma and he's fine. But Deku decides to just let Bakugo rest and heal regularly. So basically, Deku sits next to Bakugo the whole time, worried about him. Until he's taken away because he needs to plan with the heroes for a second. But as soon as he comes back, Bakugo's missing and he's done his vigilante arc. So Class 1A figures out a plan to get Bakugo back. So basically Bakugo does what Deku did in the original, and then the Class 1A shows up with Deku instead of Bakugo. And it's basically the same plan, and it works this time, instead of Bakugo having to apologize to Deku. After Bakugo goes back to UA and takes the bath, they then continue to plan with Bakugo this time with all of his quirks. So the plan gets a lot better. And what they plan is Deku is going to be basically the everywhere all at once. And they figure out how they're going to do that is with Monoma. He's going to teleport Deku all over the place. Because remember, Monoma got Korogiri's quirk. What I remember by Monoma's quirk is that he can copy anyone's quirk and they can only use them one at a time. And since Aizawa is all healed up and it's actually perfectly fine, he can still cancel out quirks. He's just missing an eye. But his quirk isn't dampened in any slightest. He can still use his quirk perfectly fine. So yeah. Then everyone figures out that Aoyama is the UA traitor, but but they all say that it doesn't matter. And so they lure out All for One with this trick with Aoyama. And basically the whole Avengers Assemble thing happens again. Same thing. Yep. Okay. So Deku is a part of the group that fights Shigaraki, and Monoma makes him teleport all around to heal all the heroes that are fighting Shigaraki. But eventually Shigaraki gets an advantage by All for One teleporting Baku away, with Shigaraki punching him through that portal. And so it's basically just the pro heroes and Deku holding off Shigaraki until Baku gets back. And Baku is a lot faster than Deku was in the original because of the explosions. So he zooms over to there a lot faster than the original. And I guess instead of Baku dying here, nobody dies because Deku can just heal everyone before Shigaraki can do any serious damage. And when Shigaraki tries to go over Deku, the pro heroes just punch him off him. And Deku just heals whatever got touched. So, yeah. But it does end in all the pro heroes eventually being too far gone to heal. And Deku gets retired. And right before Bakugo gets there, Deku gets socked in the stomach, sent flying back. So far back that he actually hits Bakugo before he even gets there. But he has just a gut wound, really. But he heals it, saying, Baku, you gotta kill him. And Baku says that he hopes not to. And Deku hopes that Baku doesn't have to kill anyone either. So Baku fights Shigaraki, and yeah, with Deku sitting on the sidelines watching Bakugo fight him. So eventually, and then eventually they hear comms from Endeavor that All for One is going over to the, not Endeavor, they hear comms from Jiro that All for One is zooming over to where Shigaraki is. So when they hear about that, Deku is worried on that and is hoping Baku can beat out Shigaraki. But in this timeline, Shigaraki is able to get a hand right on Bakugo's face. In this timeline, Shigaraki, being a bit more in control here, decides he doesn't want that damn quirk, and he just kills and tries to kill Bakugo. And so Deku asks Monoma to throw him at him, so Monoma uses portals to have to cancel out the quirk, and shoots Deku onto Shigaraki, basically touching Bakugo, actually getting some blood on a cut that he has on his wrist, which Bakugo feels he's fucked, so he just transfers over One for All to Deku, losing it entirely and all the quirks, but Deku gets all the quirks. And Deku just heals Bakugo up to the point where Shigaraki gets annoyed and throws Bakugo away. Bakugo slams to the ground, missing half his face, missing an eye, and having a massive gash in his cheek. But we can hear his heart beating, so he's fine. So Deku fights, then the fight transfers over to Deku. And yeah, it's a lot harder for Deku to control One for All, but he's able to. Since Shigaraki is so, tired from fighting Bakugo, it's a lot easier for Deku to fight Shigaraki. And Deku basically counters the whole I can punch as hard as I want, and I don't have to worry about the whole hurting my body because I can just heal it. So he basically punches Shigaraki with every single might of every punch and is not being able to worry about stamina. So Shigaraki just starts getting fucked up. And so Shigaraki is panicking, so he tries to take Deku's quirk. Because there's no way he's going to be able to touch Deku with his actual quirk. Because Deku will just heal it. So he tries to steal Deku's quirk, but Deku counters it by invading Shigaraki's mind. And when All For One shows up, Deku just basically face palms him and basically purges him from Shigaraki. But of course, Shigaraki, being too far gone, decays decays nothing, but just pushes Deku back, and then just starts losing it by exploding in a thing of fingers. Yeah, it's really gross. And Deku has to deal with that. So Deku decides that he's just going to help everyone start fighting Shigaraki up. So he takes Bakugo and moves him, and they get out of there. And then Deku runs, stances out, and then Class 1A, Pro Heroes, yeah, all that. Then Deku rushes towards Shigaraki, he thinks. And then everyone, keeps Deku and lets him attack him. And Deku jumps up, charges one last punch, and is about to swing when he gets a little flash thing. With Shigaraki saying to Deku that he would like to give his friend Spinner his last words, which Deku says he'll give them to him. And then he kills Shigaraki, just like in the original. And Deku slams to the ground unconscious, because oh my god, that was a lot of a healing quirk. Yeah, and so this timeline, One for All, doesn't get erased, and Deku gets to keep it, with Bakugo being a lot stronger than he is in the original, because he was able to enhance his quirk so much. We'll say, some vestiges of One for All was there, so Bakugo's quirk is just 100 times stronger than it was in the original. But, yeah, that's really it. Deku inherits One for All, keeps it from being erased, because he can just heal himself. So, yeah. Oh yeah, All For One got erased like he did in the original. Bakugo woke up and fought him and basically evaporated him because he was too strong. Anyways, that's it. That's the end of What If. Like, subscribe, hit the post notification bells. Hope you liked the ending. I kind of liked it. Not too much, really. I kind of was tripping over myself there, but bye.